guys, Wraith calling. So today we're looking at the J-Tig 8.8, and this is a premium tier 8 German tank destroyer, and we're in Silver Darks, and talk a little bit about if this is still kind of a viable tank destroyer. I think it is. If you're not familiar with this machine, it is the cousin of the J-Tig tier 9 German heavy tank destroyer. The tier 9 version gets the big 128 gun, 128 millimeters, 12.8 centimeters, depending where you live. And it is a beast of a machine, heavily armored and fearsome. So what sets this one out was obviously the 8.8 J-Tig versus the full-blown 128. Well, they're both historical tanks for one. They were both used in World War II. And in World War II, the only difference between these two was the gun. So what happened was, production was running behind for the 128s. They couldn't build them fast enough. But it did have some of the extra long barrel 88s. These are the 88 L71s that you will see on like the Tiger and on the earlier versions of the Tiger 2. And this is actually also the historical gun that was used on the Tiger 2s. So this gun was, they had a bunch of these, and they were like, well, we got to get these things out in the field. And they put these out in the field. Now keep in mind, you may think, oh, it's only the 8.8, doesn't hit very hard. This thing was fighting against Sandforce Shermans, BC Fireflies, Churchills, Comets, Cromwells, T-34, T-34 88s, ISs, KVs, KV2s. Those were all like tier 7 and lower tanks.
Target locked.
So this thing was would murder those vehicles at extreme range.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
So bear that in mind when you think about this tank sucks. And, oh, they could never use it. This was used in the war, and that's what the opponents it came up against. And this thing was, air power was the biggest weakness for this thing because they were not very mobile. Transmissions weren't good. Engines were kind of unreliable. But the guns were awesome, and the armor on this cannot be denied as being impressive. So this thing is capable of bouncing like tier 10 guns. Don't think that it can't. Obviously, the plate makes a difference. And here you can see I'm sitting here shooting this KV4, and he might have a shot to pen my lower plate if he's using the 107, which I think he is. And if he's throwing the gold ammo at me, he could probably pen my lower plate. But otherwise, he's not going to pen my upper casement. This thing is pretty brutal bouncing rounds. So the key is to driving this tank is keep that gun going. This has got a very high rate of fire. You don't do a whole lot of damage. You can see I'm paying these guys for like 230, 240, 220, somewhere in there. And I get a couple little horror rolls. And I bounce off the mantle with the T150. So the key to this gun is keep this gun going. Now it does get premium matchmaking, so it's only going to see tier 8 and tier 9 at the most. You'll also see tier 7s and tier 6s, and you will destroy those guys. But basically this thing's a rolling armored box. And you gotta play it as such. You gotta keep the gun going. It's a very accurate gun with a very good rate of fire, pretty good penetration, good enough to deal with these guys. You do notice I do carry a generous load of APCR because as good as this gun against tier lower tiers, against tier 8s and tier 9s, it does suffer a little bit with the penetration. So I do carry APCR rounds in case I do have to deal with tier 8, tier 9 heavy tanks and heavier tank destroyers. I can still be effective against them. You can see this rate of fire. He can't get away. He just sits there and accepts his death, unfortunately. But you don't be afraid to use this thing's armors to advantage. The key is to get set, park it somewhere in a spot you know where bad guys are going to be, and gun them down as they come. You're not going to chase anybody down with this tank. It's slightly faster than the T95. It's a little bit faster than a crappy Tortoise. But I definitely think it's a viable tank. Now, as far as, if you look, and it may not be aware, if you go to Tankopedia, whether it's the console version or the PC version, you can actually look at the premium tanks in Tankopedia and see the ratio of how they break down credits and crew experience, what bonuses they get. So this was one of the original tier 8 premium tanks. I think the T-34 was actually the first, and this one was shortly behind it. And this was the first premium tank I bought when it came out. Because this thing is a credit minting machine. This thing makes credits like nobody's business. I've had games where I've hit almost 200,000 credits earned with this thing. So what's the bonus look like? Well, there's actually only 3 tanks that actually come that get the kind of bonus this thing gets. It's this one, the FCM, and I think the new Centennial. Well, let's look. I do 3K damage, 3,200 black. There's that armor. 123,000 basics, 123,000 credits, 3K base XP, 1,400 base experience. I'm going to show you another clip here, and this is steps, and you're going to see what happens when I get this thing hull down. Now, this is a tier 9 game, so there are lots of big tier 9 tanks running around, and you'll see I tangle with a couple of them. This game does not know out so well, but this does highlight the armor of this thing. So I'm going to wedge myself up. Where I'm at wedged between these two rocks, I have a good view of this little center road. And no one is able to pin me from the front. And you will see how long I sit here and take shot after shot. Anyway, back to the credit earning potential of this machine. This machine gets that 45% bonus for credit earning potential. The crew bonus is only 15. But like I said, the FCM gets a similar bonus. And so does the new Centennial. I think it may even get 50, 55. It's grossly destructive. But this does get 45, and this thing will make credits. Well, a lot of people don't know when people cry about how they spot me and I wasn't spotted. I see where your bullets originate. And if you see here, I've shot a few tanks. I don't know what they are, but I'm getting hit markers for it. And that's simply because you shoot me, I saw where the round came from, and I'm giving you one back. Just because I can't see you does not mean I can't see your round coming in on me. And you'll notice all the bounces this thing takes. And I'm hold down, they can't penetrate my lower plate. And there's a little walker. He becomes my issue. And he knows I'm sitting here. And they know I'm sitting here. And Artie's taken a few shots at me and really hasn't done much to me. But I'm holding the center corridor down. For too long, though, the team does start to filter away on me. Sorry guys, I still have throat issues. And so I'm watching for shots. I know there's at least one tank destroyer back there. And a couple other tanks were back there monkeying around. So then I see that Indian Panzer again. See that bounce another shot. I back up just a little bit to readjust. Squeeze on off at him. He moves just before I get a shot off. And there's Artie. And Artie does an ammo rack. I do repair it. I wait for my guys to do something heroic, and they really don't do much heroic. But I'm holding the center.
Enemies got us in their sights.
And I figure this is a good spot for me to sit. I'm almost Artie safe. Artie's, yeah, you know, it's 50. And at this point, they do damage my gun.
Looks like that one went right
There's my gun's destroyed now. I'm like, click, 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 click. And I can't fire anymore. I'm like, well, okay. So I just sit here, I'm going to wiggle, and here comes the Walker Bulldog. He's going to be a problem for me. He gets taken out. Other people are shooting the Walker Bulldog, and I figure, okay, they've got my back. No, the Walker Bulldog actually is a fairly competent tank driver, and becomes an issue for me. But until then, I'm happily pumping rounds out of this Indian Panzer. Who doesn't have the common sense to get out of the range. Even with my damaged gun, this is still fairly accurate. And there's the Walker Bulldog comes back. Another Walker Bulldog comes back. And you can see they're still taking shots at me. I'm happy to just sit here and just shoot back. If anything, at the very least, I'm drawing fire from my teammates. And you will continue to see rounds bounce in. They come screaming in over me. Sorry, fellas. And unfortunately, I cannot repair again, so I'm just stuck with this damaged gun. I still do get hits occasionally. I'm getting shot from the sides. Now the whole right flank is collapsed. I'm like, well, this is unfortunate. So I have to abandon my position. I'm still bouncing shots from the Fausch down there, and that's when the other guys start making their move. Now I think I still got two tank destroyers behind me to cover my back. I thought we still may be able to do this. I could hold this line and do all right. There's T-26. Good little angle. Missed on the first one. I'm like, all right, guys, get a little help would be nice. So I'm gonna pin his lower plate. And track it. Now I'm getting shot by another tank. I'm still getting hits on these guys. He goes for the ram. He's not gonna win the ramming contest because I'm heavy. And I slowly get wheedled to death. And I'm gonna die here real quick. But I do manage to get one shot in on him. I back up, ram him, and I kill him. I keep thinking the guy behind me is gonna save me and do something useful, and he doesn't. So we're gonna skip ahead to the end. It was a defeat. 50k, 2,500 damage. I blocked 7,000 damage in this game. Even a crappy loss like that, I still walk away with 50k. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and keep your powder dry.